Hello, my name is Jan Potsman. I'm the Assistant Director at the CSUN Career Center, and we are happy to have you here today to join us and join Margaret Pauline to hear about Lockheed Martin. And unfortunately, Margaret is having some issues with her screen, but we will be able to share the presentation with you. You will hear her audio, but you will not see her physically. But I'm going to share with you right now a little bit about Margaret. So Margaret currently works for Lockheed Martin as a campus relations manager based in Southern California. She has worked 27 years in various university relations and recruiting roles. Former employers include Northrop Grumman and Connexent. During her career, she has worked with countless students, student affairs professionals, faculty, and administrators. She continues to collaborate with student organizations and campus programs to identify and develop early career talent. She has served on career services and diversity engineering advisory boards at USC, UCLA, Cal Poly Pomona, Cal Poly SLO, UC Irvine, Virginia Tech, and MIT. Margaret is proud to be a founding member of the Summer Student Leadership Workshop for Engineering Diversity Organization e-board members. She is a member of the Mountain Pacific Association of Colleges and Employers, MPACE, and National Association of Colleges and Employers, NACE, and has served in various leadership roles. Margaret has a BA and MA and secondary teaching credential from CSU Bakersfield and began her career managing residence halls and student activities. She has been married for 41 years with 2 adult children and 3 grandchildren. Welcome, Margaret.
Thank you, Jan. And I have another grandchild on the way, so it'll soon be 4. So we're very excited. Well, again, thank you for this opportunity to chat with the students at Cal State Northridge. Again, as Jan indicated, I am the campus relations manager for Lockheed Martin, and I am based in Southern California. Believe it or not, I am the first recruiter for Lockheed based in Southern California that works university relations. They would typically fly someone in to do events and then fly them back home, but I'm actually here and I'm in my car, doing my work with the various campuses. So what I am going to be sharing with you this afternoon is basically a quick overview of Lockheed Martin, and then we will get into the leadership, our internship program. So I have a few slides on the internship program, and certainly there will be time for questions at the end, so please. What you see now is this is a QR code that you can certainly scan. You can create your profile, load your resume, and this will put you on the Lockheed Martin Cal State Northridge talent pipeline. Our sourcers do use these pipelines to help find talent for our various positions. Yes, you still have to go online and apply to a particular job, and I'll get more into that. But this is just another avenue or another method that our sourcers use in terms of finding talent. So please, please do scan and like I said, complete your profile and load your resume. All right, moving on, Jan, we can go ahead and go to the next slide. Okay. All right, so what is very critical to Lockheed Martin are our core values. We have 3 core values. Again, they may seem very basic, but they are very instrumental to our success. Do what's right. Again, ethics is very, very important to the company. So again, it is important that we perform with the highest ethical behavior in everything that we do. And we also request that of our customers and suppliers, so we really vet those individuals to make sure that they are in line with our core values. Respect others is also another key value. And that's not only internally teammates and others, maybe across, other organizations. It also includes our suppliers and our customers. We have to be respectful of one another. And again, I have another slide that will show you in terms of diversity and inclusion and making sure that we avoid microaggressions and things of that nature. So making everybody feel comfortable by respecting them. Doesn't mean we always agree with them, but we have to respect them in terms of opinions, because that's what makes this world go round, is certainly various opinions and the diversity of folks and their thinking. The last core value is perform with excellence. Again, it is important that that we perform to the best of our abilities on our contracts with our customers, that we delight our customers with the work that we do, so we can continue to receive future contracts, future work as we move forward with our business areas. So, so again, 3 very simple values, but very, very important and critical to our success at Lockheed Martin. Okay, moving on. This is kind of again, an overview chart of who we are. We're a corporation of 116,000 employees. As you can see, 6,300 are international employees. Over half of our staff are in the STEM field. They're either engineers, scientists, or technologists. We are very proud of that 1 in 5 of our employees have served in uniform. You can see we have 450 facilities globally. Our headquarters is in Bethesda, Maryland, and it is co-head, and it's also the headquarters for our Rotary and Mission Systems organization. And then as we go west, we can see Texas. We have 2 of our headquarters in Texas, not too far apart from each other. We have our Missiles and Fire Control Group that's headquartered in Grand Prairie, and our Aeronautics Group headquartered in Fort Worth, just right outside of Dallas. And then we have our space headquarters, which is in the Denver, Colorado area. As you can see, it is very important to the company that we give back. And so there is a lot of community charitable donations, programs that we support. As you can see here at the bottom, in 2022, our charitable donations totaled to 33 million. And then we also have an employee match program where if an employee decides to give to a university or to a school, again, that is matched by the company, and that was 7.7 million. All right, moving on. Okay. All right, so we're basically broken down into 4 major businesses. The first, which is probably the one that you probably hear the most about because it is the closest to Cal State Northridge, and that's our Aeronautics Group. As mentioned earlier, our Aeronautics Group is headquartered in the Fort Worth area, but there is a facility in Palmdale, where I'm sure a lot of you know where Palmdale is, and that facility is our Skunk Works facility. It is an advanced development site for our Aeronautics Group. The engineers and the folks that work in Palmdale call themselves skunks, and you can look up. There is a story as to why they call themselves Skunk Works and how they got their name, skunks. But they're basically focused on the military tactical fighter aircraft that, the F-35, the F-22, the F-16, things of that nature. They also have the Hercules C-130, which is, again, a strategic airlift for the military. And again, a lot of sustainment operations in the sense of making sure that our aircraft, both manned as well as they do a lot of autonomous systems, that those are maintained and that they are field ready. So sustainment is a big part of what Aero does. I can also tell you that, again, with the Skunk Works facility, it is a conceptual design facility. It is a rapid prototyping facility. They execute and then they sustain. It is not a full-on production facility. Our production facilities are in Fort Worth, Marietta, Georgia, and in Greenville, South Carolina. Okay. And most of the work in aeronautics does require U.S. citizenship and also security clearance, just due to the nature and sensitivity of the work that gets done. The other site that we kind of have, but we share that with all of our other, what I'll call competimates, the other companies that are in our space, so to speak. We do have flight test out at Edwards Air Force Base, and we also have some testing out at China Lake. Moving on to missiles and fire control, what they do is kind of in their name. Again, a lot of air missile defense, fire control to make sure that that the missile meets its target. Again, very tactical missiles. They also have a battery program with the U.S. Army for sustainable energy in terms of renewable energy and batteries that can go out into the field and help the warfighter with whatever he or she is needing to do. And they, again, are headquartered also in Texas. They have a small facility in Goleta, which is near Santa Barbara. There they they develop infrared camera work, and they do their own clean rooms and things of that nature. But they are the ones that build out infrared cameras that fit on to the bottom of aircraft for surveillance and reconnaissance type of work. Our Rotary and Mission Systems group, again, is primarily headquartered, I know it was in Bethesda, but they have a number of facilities in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, are their major sites. They are co-located a little bit in Colorado with the Space Group, but they have over 1,000 programs that they work on. Again, they're focused on naval combat systems, radar, and sensor type of work is what they do. They also work on submarines, and in terms of anything from submarines to as you can see, to the helicopters. The helicopters are primarily for military purposes. We purchased the Sikorsky aircraft some years ago, and Rotary and Mission Systems also builds out the new helicopter when there is a new president. They also have helicopters in line for fire suppression, fire detection, and also for heavy lift. Our space group, again, if you are familiar with the Orion or Artemis program, again, there's a picture of, we have our Orion that is going to take the next set of astronauts to the moon and to Mars. Again, I know that there are both autonomous or unmanned as well as manned trips to Mars down the road. Again, a lot of satellite work is what they do. Their closest facility to CSUN is in Sunnyvale. That is where they do some of this. They do satellite builds, and they also do the solar arrays. But again, global communications, all that, the GPS that we all enjoy, that is courtesy of a Lockheed Martin satellite. So again, primarily deep space and human space flight is what they do. And then kind of overarching the whole all of Lockheed is our Enterprise Operations Group, which I'm a part of. Again, it is basically the backbone. It provides the labs, it provides HR, it provides our global diversity and inclusion initiatives, our digital transformation, things of that nature, cybersecurity, things of that nature. Okay, moving on. Our culture of inclusion, as I mentioned, it's very, very important, similar to the student organizations that you may have on campus. These are kind of our version of the student organizations. We call them business resource groups. You may know them as employee resource groups, but they play a very critical part, again, to our success. Again, diversity of thought is, what they bring to the table, certainly. And again, they help with our recruiting. I mean, we need to have a diverse workforce, and it has to be inclusive. It's like, as our chairman says, it's the right thing to do. And it's also a business imperative for us as we move forward, with our continued business and new business. Okay. All right. And you could see here our Black Engineering Excellence Council, OLA, which is the Latinx organization. PAN is the Asian American. Able and Allies, again, in terms of accessibility, those with perhaps accessibility concerns. WIN is our Women's Impact Network, Pride, and then also our MilVets organization. So a lot of our employees do belong to these groups and are very active. They are active not only internally, but also in the community as well. And they do a lot of pre-college work in terms of reaching out to those students in elementary school and middle school and high school to get them maybe on board in considering STEM. All right, Jan, moving forward. Our customers, probably no surprise here, since we are considered a global security or, aerospace defense company. So again, all of the military branches and also some 3-letter agencies that we do work with. And again, NASA, we are very tightly connected to NASA, certainly with Artemis and other types of satellite programs. Just a fun fact for you, if you are following at all the James Webb Space Telescope, those images that are coming back off the infrared camera, that camera was built by our space organization. And so we are very excited about the clarity of those images and just the vibrance of those images. And we are the top producer of goods and services for the United States Department of Defense. I do not believe that we are the largest defense company, but we are the top producer. So moving on. Okay, our careers. This is kind of a list of the types of careers that we or majors that we do seek and we do employ. Again, probably no surprises here. So you can kind of peruse that list and hopefully you find your major. It is not, there may be some others that are not on this list. I know a lot of students are certainly going into data sciences and analytics. That's probably something that needs to be added since there are jobs that are emerging in those fields. Certainly with also machine learning, a lot of the machine learning and artificial intelligence is embedded in some of these positions or some of these disciplines. And again, you can poke around our website or, visit our website at lockheedmartin.com/college. That is where I suggest that you go and visit just as soon as you can, because our jobs for next year, for 2024, are posted out on our website already. Okay, moving on. Okay, so our internship program. Last year, we hired over 3,000 interns across all of our businesses and in all the states. We offer a variety of internships. They're not just technical; they are also non-technical. Those friends, or if you yourself perhaps are a business major, an HR major, a supply chain major, finance, those are all things that we do need in addition to the technical positions that we hire for. We try to really work to align your internship with your major. We want you to be able to get some real work, some hands-on experience. So when you come back to the classroom, you can share your experience on how, what happened and how Lockheed Martin utilizes your major and what the types of things that you did for the summer as an intern. Again, the work, usually when you come in as an intern, you'll be assigned to a project team, and it is real work that needs to get completed. The manager will explain how the intern project fits into the bigger scope of things, but I have in the past seen interns write code for some of our vehicles. I've had students that maybe have had to re-engineer a door on Artemis, or some mechanism on the door that was not working properly. So there are different things that, again, you could experience as an intern, but it is real work. You're not filing, you're not getting coffee for anybody other than yourself. Again, you are assigned a buddy or a mentor, and that is really your go-to person during the summer. Yes, you have a manager, but you may not see that manager every day. Again, we're positioned to provide on-the-job training, certainly for our interns. We want you to be successful. And again, it's the same thing too with our early career folks. We want to make sure that you're successful. If you need something, you need to work with your buddy. in making that request. Maybe there's a particular course you would like to take to give you some better exposure, perhaps to better understand the work, that type of thing. You just need to ask. Everybody is very willing to help interns, with their work. When you come in as an intern, again, you're going to be setting performance goals with the manager, and you're going to be held to those goals during your stay with Lockheed. Usually at the end of your internships, you would be briefing out what you did. You may be briefing out even each week at staff meetings, things of that nature. But you will usually, we want to make sure that you have an opportunity to get exposure to others in the organization. But again, your performance goals are very important, as that will be a measurement of whether or not you're extended an opportunity to come back as an intern or to convert you into a full-time opportunity in early career. Typically, our internships are 8 to 10 weeks. Most of our interns work a 4-10 work schedule, meaning that they are working Monday through Thursday, 10 hours a day, and then they typically have Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off. There are networking and intern events that you would be invited to participate. Some would be at the specific site that you're at. Others could be virtually, where they're involving interns from other locations, things of that nature. There's usually what we call brown bag or lunchtime activities, where you can have lunch and listen to a speaker or another part of the business, just to better acquaint you with Lockheed Martin. Again, it is a paid opportunity, and pay is based on level of school completed. So a first year would not be paid, let's say, as much as maybe a junior or a senior. With a lot of our internships, there is a housing stipend. Usually in the position description, it's indicated whether a housing stipend is provided, and that stipend is to help you basically offset your summer housing. It may not completely cover the cost of your housing, but it will certainly help. It is usually provided to you as a lump sum in your paycheck and is not taxed. And again, usually the intern program will either pay for mileage or a flight if we're moving you, let's say, to Colorado or to Texas. Again, it usually includes a trip to and from that particular facility and back to home. It's important that you start looking for internships now, because we have been hiring for interns since basically September, so the last month or so. They do go quickly, so I do recommend that you start looking for an opportunity if you're interested in Lockheed. Again, we do have a high return and conversion rate, which is in the high 70s, which is something we're very proud of. So again, we feel that interns are very satisfied with the opportunities that we present them for the summer. Okay, moving on. This is what we look for in terms of candidate attributes. Again, it's important that that you have an interest in the industry. We know that Lockheed Martin is not everybody's cup of tea. So again, if you can demonstrate that passion on your resume or in your elevator pitch or or on a cover letter. Again, we do look for people that are very passionate about what we do, be it at space or aero or again, our missiles and fire control group or rotary mission systems. It's also helpful if you know what business area and what position you are looking for. Again, if you can help us hone in on that, and because you have that sense of what you want to do, it's important. So that goes a long way. Critical thinker, again, we are looking for people that are very analytical. Again, our customers, they come to Lockheed with some really very demanding, very tough problems. And so we're always looking for people that can help, arrive at a solution. And so your critical ability to think is very, very important. Also, your curiousness is also very important, and your creativity. Those are things too. Or do you ask questions? And those are again something that is of value. We also certainly look at the types of courses you've taken, the skills that you've amassed, your projects. Again, your project work is very important, because a lot of what you do at Lockheed is going to be team-based, and we hope that you've had some experience working with teams of people, in the collegiate setting. So projects are very critical. Ideally, those are relevant to the type of job that you are seeking. Work experience, if you've had an opportunity to have had a relevant internship experience, great. But if you haven't, that's not a deal breaker. I know some of you, we know that a lot of students may work in retail or food service, and that's fine. Maybe you're, working and going to school, let us know that. Because we can sometimes derive from work experience if you're a shift lead, excuse me, if you're closing, or opening, things like that, the responsibility that goes along with that. You're juggling school and work. That tells us that you're, a good time management skills, things of that nature. So we can derive other things from work history, even though it may not be directly related. But again, if you do have direct related work experience, please make sure that gets on your resume or part of your elevator pitch. Leadership, we do look for leaders. And again, it could be informal as well as formal leadership, meaning maybe you're on a project team and you're a lead of a sub-team of some sort or a subsystem. Or maybe there's more formal internships or formal leadership, like you're a president of an organization or on an e-board. So make sure that you, especially with student organizations that align with your major, again, being able to articulate what you're learning in the classroom and how you're applying it, is really important, the hands-on pieces. Extracurricular, again, we do want to see, are you multi-dimensioned? Are you just studying and doing and not doing anything else? So again, those are where those clubs and organizations are very important. If you noticed, I didn't really put GPA on here, and I did that for a reason. GPA is one of these elements, but it is not, we do not have necessarily a minimum GPA. We really try to take a holistic view of the candidate, taking into account all of these 8 boxes. And yes, we will look at the GPA. So, but again, it's not something that will automatically disqualify you if you don't have a 3.0 or whatever GPA. Okay. All right, moving on. How to apply. Again, visit the Lockheed Martin website. I know we've already given you our website address. Again, I suggest that you, review posted positions, and I'm going to show you a slide next here on how to use the filters. You can apply and load your resume. That QR code that was on the second slide, that also kind of creates a profile for you on our applicant tracking system, which is the lockheedmartin.com. So that will, it'll automatically create that profile for you. It will also keep you on our candidate database, again, along with the tracking database. So it's important. You can always upload new resumes, things of that nature, but everybody has to apply online visiting the Lockheed Martin website. Another way to get connected with us certainly is to attend national diversity conferences. There is a conference coming up here on Saturday. Basically this week, starting Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It's Great Minds in STEM. It's a Latinx conference, but they have an open career fair open to the public late morning on Saturday. So if you want to connect with employers, because employers will be there and they will be they'll be interviewing and offering jobs. Excuse me. The other conference that's also in our backyard is the Society of Women Engineers, and that's going to be at the LA Convention Center. They do have a career fair, so if any of you are SWE members, I would highly encourage you to try to attend that conference because, again, it is a huge conference, over 10,000 people. Last year, Lockheed Martin made over 150 offers at the SWE conference, and I know we are going to be, are going to be in the LA, or are going to be supporting the conference again this year, and we will have a booth as well as conducting on-site interviews at the conference site. I would also encourage you, if you don't already, to have a digital copy of your resume on your phone or whatever device you use, because again, when you go to these conferences and or career fairs, you probably saw a lot of companies with QR codes. And so it is important that you're able to load your resume digitally or request that the company take a photo of your resume and attach it to your profile. And I also want to encourage you to make sure that you have your elevator pitch down. when you're, visiting with companies. And your pitch may need to be diversified depending upon the employer. It shouldn't be the same pitch for all companies unless it's all in the same field. So again, you may need to customize your pitch depending upon who you're speaking to. The other thing that I will mention in terms of just, being able to surface up your resume, helping our sourcers when they are looking for candidates, are keywords on your resume. So let's say you're a mechanical engineer and you want to do structures. You better make sure that you've got the word structures on your resume, or maybe it's MATLAB that's been called out on the basic qualifications or the desired qualifications. Again, when you're applying, you really need to study the job description, and you need to make sure that you meet whatever the basics qualifications are. Desired qualifications are just that. They're nice to have, but if you have them, please make sure that they're indicated on your resume, because that helps the sourcer and the recruiter when we are looking for talent. Unfortunately, we don't have the time to look at every single resume, because sometimes that can be in the hundreds. So that's where, again, we have to use keywords that we search on. Okay, moving on. This is kind of a snapshot of our careers website. Again, on the right-hand side, that's our filters. So what you can do is you can, click to apply. You can put a keyword in, and then you can filter. You can filter on the career area that you're seeking, the country, the US, or maybe you want to go internationally, the state, if you have preferences, the city, maybe you just want to look for jobs in Palmdale or Sunnyvale. Again, the ability to work remotely, there's a drop down there, and it will usually, whether it's in person, a hybrid, or remote. The program, again, there's drop downs there in terms of the type of program you want to work on. The business area, one of the four, again, is it aero, is it space, is it missiles and fire control, is it rotary and mission system, or maybe it's enterprise operations. Experience level, again, you would, the drop down there will indicate intern/co-op. I will tell you that in California, we do not offer co-ops, or we don't have co-op schools in California. We only have 2 co-op schools, and they are primarily more back east. The other area in terms of experience level that you will want to use is 4-year and up. Those are for people that are looking for early career opportunities. Experienced professional, you will see that one too, but experienced professional for us is more if you have 2 or more years full-time in a field. So again, most of the candidates coming from campus will either be interns or co-ops, or 4-year and up. I should mention too that being eligible for an internship, you have to be returning to school at the end of an internship. So if you're graduating as a senior, then you and you're not planning on going back to school in the fall, you would not be eligible for an internship. We would consider you more for early career. So please, and then security clearance and relocation assistance, those are other filters that you can use, but please use those filters in terms of helping you identify opportunities and be able to kind of hone in and focus in on what you are specifically looking for. Okay, and I think, Jan, that there might be one more slide. There you go. Just to bring to your attention, and I'll be sending this out to the Career Center at Northridge and asking them to get it sent out too. There is a West Region hiring event, a virtual hiring event on November the 1st. Again, there will be a combination of intern as well as early career. They are primarily the 2 businesses that are supporting this event, or who are providing the opportunities, are primarily our Space and Aeronautics Group. Most of the jobs are here in California. There might be one in Fort Worth and one in Colorado, but they're primarily here in California. You can click on, again, one of these QR codes, and again, you can apply. Again, there's an apply button. You can apply, load your resume, and what happens is we have sourcers that are looking at each of these fields, and they will be identifying candidates that fit the particular positions that will be part of this virtual hiring event. You may receive a call to verify. You know, they usually will call candidates if they're interested in getting them scheduled for an interview. They will verify a few things, and then ideally they will tell you if they're moving you forward to be interviewed on November the 1st. So please consider, you know, attending or at least throwing your resume in the ring to be considered for one of these opportunities. All right, and I think one more. That's it. So now we're Q&A. Questions?
Okay. Genesis?
Yeah, thank you so much for that information, Margaret. Very informative. This will be the time. If students who have any questions, please put them in the chat so that I can relay them to our speaker today. Awesome. So it looks like we are getting some students.
Okay.
Looks like we have a question that says, could you explain what a sorry, I'm having a hard time.
4 year and up.
Yes, 4 year and up means one more time.
4 year and up basically means that you've graduated. Maybe you graduated in the fall or a spring of 2022, or you're going to graduate in spring of 2023. It means that you are, you know, graduating, and you either, you know, so you've have your bachelor's, and in some cases maybe it's a master's. But 4 year and up means that you'll be in possession of at least your bachelor's. Now, keep in mind that we post our jobs in the fall. So jobs have been posted since September. Those opportunities, though, are for 2024. And that is, again, where you would be brought in either as an intern for the summer and or early career for later summer. But it means you typically are close to graduating or have already or possess your bachelor's.
Gotcha. Thank you for that clarification. We also have another question that asks, is it possible to have an internship of 20 weeks?
20 weeks, that would be to us a co-op, and we don't really do that at this time. Now, what can happen is you can have a summer internship, and the manager may have budget and may have work, and maybe will approach you and say, I have work, I have budget, I would like to continue having you work maybe part-time during the school year, and they may sustain you maybe 10 or 12 hours, you know, during the school year. But our internships are typically only 8 to 10 weeks unless there's this outgrowth into the academic year.
Gotcha. Thank you. It looks like those are the 2 questions that we've had. We can wait and see if any other students have any other questions. Please put any questions you might have for Margaret in the chat, please. That'd be helpful. And I can relay the message.
Is everybody looking for internships primarily, Genesis, or do we have any early career? I know it's internship week on campus, so.
Yes, it seems that most of our students, according to some students in the chat, they are primarily looking for internships.
Okay, perfect.
So I guess a follow-up question that I would have would be, is there any advice that you'd want to give? I know you've already talked a lot about your application process, but just general tips as students who are looking for internships currently. Any last minute tips you'd want to give them as they're going through the application process?
I would say really focus on your resume to make sure it reflects and that reflects the keywords. I can't emphasize enough how critical keywords are, and really, you know, look at those positions at those employers that are of interest. So you really need to focus, you know, you are going to really need to focus on what employers are you know, extremely interested in, and really focus on them. Don't get discouraged if you get declined. Continue. It's important. I mean, a lot of people, I can't tell you how many times people have said, well, I've applied, but, you know, I've gotten nowhere, and then boom, it hits, and then they're on and they've been hired. So just continue. So there is some persistence there. So you need a little bit of grit in terms of, you know, continuing your search. So keywords, basic, you know, make sure that you read the position carefully. You might want to maybe do some LinkedIn searches. Maybe there's some or other resources out there to help you maybe identify a little more clearly maybe what the role is or what's the culture like or things of that nature. You may have friends or neighbors or, that work at Lockheed. So don't be afraid to talk with them. They may not be able to tell you a lot of what they do, especially if a security clearance is required. And if you have a security clearance already, maybe from one of our competimates or from the military, make sure that that is on there, because a lot of our jobs do require clearance, or you just need to be eligible for a clearance. And if a clearance is needed, it is in the position description. It will indicate such, but the company is positioned to sponsor you for a clearance. So don't feel, you can't go out and you can't get a clearance on your own. You've got to be sponsored by a company through the government, with the need to know or access to the information that you would, that you would be working on.
Right. Well, awesome. Thank you for, providing those tips to our students as they go through the application process. But in terms of questions, unless any other students have some last minute questions that they want to put in the chat, that is all we have right now. So I guess we can wait a minute or so, see if students have any other questions in the chat. But if not, I will pass it off to Jan.
Yeah, the other thing that I would just mention is apply early, because if you wait until February of next year, you're going to be disappointed because you will not find, you may not find what you're looking for, especially with a big employer like us. There still may be smaller organizations that maybe don't post their jobs until next year for summer, but the large companies, all of our competimates, we're all now out trying to do our hiring for next year. And a lot of us have goals of trying to do 75% of our hiring in the fall for this academic year, even though you don't start until, the next year. So, okay.
Good to know. Thank you.
Is an internship available only for the summer, or is it possible before summer? Yeah, so our internships are typically during the summer, where we're talking about maybe trying to do internships year round, but we're not there yet. So again, it's primarily our managers, our internships are offered primarily for the summer months. So again, it's a rolling start and stop depending upon when students get out of school. So we could have students joining us in late April, starting an internship, May, June. The UC students don't start until usually late June. And the same thing when they say goodbye. Some will be leaving in August, some will be leaving in September. So again, it is a rolling start and stop.
Gotcha. So I do have one more question in the chat that just popped up. The typical start date, I think you might have just said this, is it June for those summer internships, or it just varies by
It varies.
Gotcha.
Usually, if an offer is extended and you accept and, everything, and they'll ask when school out, you say, well, school is out on, I don't know, May, whatever. You can give yourself maybe, a week or two, and then you would probably want to start. But again, you would work with the recruiter on the establishment of your start date. So it is, like I said, a rolling. We have students joining us late April. Usually by July 4th, we've got everybody in. But the critical mass is usually in by the second week of June.
That's really great for students. It's having that rolling entry point really makes it a lot easier for students. And like you said, depending on where you go to school, depends on when you finish the term.
Right.
And so the UCs, their semester start, or their quarters start in October. So like you said, September is when they would probably end their dates, where
Right.
we complete our semesters in May. So you probably start early June.
Right. That would be correct. Yes. And again, another little tip is that sometimes some interns, there may be family vacations, things like that planned. Just make sure that gets communicated to the manager ahead of time, because you don't want to bring it up like 2 days before you leave. So just make sure that you've given, that you've told the manager, hey, my family's planned a vacation for 2 weeks, I'll be out. And again, the manager may say, okay, but we'll, can we extend your internship to kind of get to be able to give you, a 10-week experience. So, just make sure that you communicate that.
Right. We do have one more question from a student that says, the 2-year junior college is for those who have done at least 2 years of college. I'm assuming.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure if I follow that. So
I think they're talking about maybe in the filters.
oh, 2-year college. Okay, so we do have what we call an apprentice program at some of the 2-year schools, and that's kind of what that's referring to. So I would, if you are an intern, I would mark intern/co-op, not necessarily the 2-year, unless you're attending a community college.
We have a large population of transfer students, and
Right.
my guess is that he was probably a transfer student.
I would understood. I just would make sure that you mark intern and not the 2-year.
Great.
Okay.
Okay, do we have any other questions?
Doesn't look like it. Looks like
We
don't have
are
any right now. We're
okay.
good.
Well, I want to say thank you to Margaret. She's a very busy woman. She's on the run all the time, like she said, she's in her car all the time, going to different events. You could hear in her voice that she's vocally fatigued because she's been talking to so many students, and I can tell by what she does that she loves her work, and
I do.
dedicated to the companies, but also dedicated to finding the best students possible for the job.
Yeah, and I also want, it gives me great pleasure to help a student launch his or her career. It's that to me gives me great pleasure. Over the years, I've had those opportunities, and it always tickles me to see when somebody's becoming a manager or a director or things of that nature. So it's very rewarding for me. So good luck to all of you. Please, Jan, you can also send out to them my email, or I can put it in the chat box if you would like to, if you have questions or things of that nature.
I can go
I'm
ahead
more than
and send
happy
it.
to chat with you.
I will send it out to the people that registered for the event, because something happened with registration. So clearly, I will send it out to them, because I will send out an invite to view this particular event.
Okay, perfect. And I just put it in the chat box for those of you that are here online. So, all right. Well, thank you, Jan, for the opportunity. Genesis, thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Take care, everyone. We're going to stop.
All right. Yeah. Enjoy your afternoon. All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.